So, hello, Chris. How are you, fella?
Hello.
And welcome to today's show. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, not too
Good.
bad. It's fairly warm today for a November day. It's been pretty damn cold recently, but it's not so bad today.
Yeah,
How's
it's
it?
not too bad, yeah.
Yeah, how's it where you are? Is it all right?
It's typically overcast, but yeah, it's all right.
It's a bit.
Yeah.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Well, thanks very much for giving up some time to have a chat with me.
Thank you for
Obviously,
having me.
no, my pleasure. Obviously, we have crossed each other's path a few times, and we'll talk about that as we chat this afternoon.
Yeah.
But firstly, mate, I've got to ask you, what was it that really got you started on that drumming journey? There must have been a moment where you went, "This is what I want to do."
So I've been told I was 3 or 4, and the Freddie Mercury tribute concert was being televised, and my mum tells me I was glued to it from from start to finish. And ever since I can remember, I've just been obsessed with Queen, in particular Roger Taylor. So that was really the start of it. I don't think to start with I had a an interest necessarily in drumming, but it was just the band as a whole. And as I got um, closer to sort of 8 or 9, I really focused in on the drums, particularly, um, and started badgering my parents for lessons at school.
Cool.
So yeah, it was really Roger Taylor who I really was obsessed with to start with, and then
Yeah,
the spin-off of Queen was the Brian May solo project, which brought me onto drummers like Cozy Powell.
absolutely.
Um, and So the older I got, I would still revisit the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, and they had so many artists appearing that day, either doing their own performances or
Yeah.
joining Queen. And I'd kind of go, "Oh, I like that." So I'll go, "Mum, who's that? And where can I get some?" And you'd go out and buy Guns N' Roses' "Appetite for Destruction." You'd buy
Awesome.
Metallica's Black Album. So by the time I was 11 or 12, this was sort of, um, my growing record collection, CD collection.
Awesome. How cool. And
Yeah,
bands like Extreme, and
yeah,
obviously Def Leppard played and introduced Vivian Campbell that
hmm
day for the first time after obviously because Steve Clark had passed away. So that was a massive deal as well. There was that
yeah,
whole show. I've got it on DVD. I had it bought as a Christmas present a few years ago, and and I have watched it and watched it, and I remember seeing it on the TV when it was broadcast, and it's such a phenomenal thing. All of it was just. I was in
yeah. It's
complete awe
so
of it as well.
historic, isn't it? The
Mm.
whole thing is just like, well, it's not easy to put 90,000 people in Wembley Stadium, is it? Like, so to do that with all of those artists is, yeah, it's something else.
It was monumental, is what it was. I think. And as you know, I know everyone talks about Live Aid, but actually, I think the Freddie Mercury tribute for what it was is as important in
Yeah,
its standing.
well, that's for a singular person, isn't it? So
Yeah.
like the scale of Live Aid, but for a single person, it just, well, shows what he meant to everyone.
I agree. I agree. It actually makes you feel quite emotional just talking about it. It's just, well, I don't know whether that's a sad thing or whether that's a good thing. But no, it was, and I think it was important to a lot of people. In so many different ways. So obviously Roger, and we'll refer to him as Roger. We won't call him Roger Taylor. We'll just for first name terms.
Yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
he's not. He's quite a straight drummer. He's not over the top extravagant, is he? He's quite,
Yeah,
stripped
no,
back,
he's really,
groove.
yeah, really does play for the song.
Mm,
Um, but I think obviously learning to understand what he does, the sound that he creates, you could get any drummer to play a simple beat, but you'll know it's him playing it,
yeah,
which is you know really important. If you can do that and be that unique that
Yeah.
someone can pick you out of a crowd, then yeah, that's something special.
Yeah, I mean he's got his own personality in his playing, hasn't he? And I think that's,
Yeah.
if we compare him to other drummers, who I think bring real personality to their style, if we think like Chad Smith,
Hmm.
or Taylor Hawkins, or if we think about Lars Ulrich, I know these are all really big names, but they all bring their personality comes out in their playing style and how they are, with
Yeah.
how they approach the drums. It's not a generic eighth note groove or whatever. There's a certain thing that's theirs, if you like. A bit
That's
like
the
Brian.
dream, isn't it?
Yes, mate, it is. It's a bit like Brian May's guitar sound. When you
Yeah.
hear that, you
Yeah.
know it's
Yeah.
Brian. You know straight away it's Brian May. It's a bit like when you hear Phil Collen playing guitar for Def Leppard. You know it's Phil Collen because of the
Yeah.
style. It's so stylistic of him, and I think this is where we are with it, and what we're. And you're right in what you're saying about Roger. Is that sound is it's a really big sound that he gets for in the simplest of grooves, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. He's it's I think that's the good thing about drummers in particular, is that everyone will play slightly differently. So his just the way that, everyone will have a different way of approaching hitting the snare drum, and the velocity, and you know how long do you leave the stick there, and all of this stuff is a factor.
Mm.
um, and I think it's something that I never used to think about very much until I was actually doing a kit share for a whole tour,
Mm.
and we were sharing everything, snare drum cymbals that all stayed on.
Wow. Okay.
And the sound guy was like, it just sounds like two different drum kits because it's two different drummers. And I was just like, does it really sound that different? Because obviously, if you swap the cymbals and snare drum on a normal kit share,
Mm.
it will sound different. But because
Yeah.
everything, I didn't realize that it was going to sound that different. But yeah.
I think it's again it's how much, because it's all down to how much power you put in, whether you are, like you said, a heavy hitter, or I know like Trey Cool from Green Day, is it's harder, heavy, faster, more. That's the kind of scenario. It's like how fast can I play, how hard can I hit, and that's his job description, which I get. But not everyone's like that. If you think about someone like Dave Weckl, who's quite light with his snare playing, but
Yeah.
my God, it's as punchy as you like. It's a bit like Frank Bruno. It's going to smack you in the face because it's so crisp.
Yeah.
It's a very different style and approach to the kit, if you like you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Dave Weckel's technique is just flawless, isn't it?
Oh, amazing.
Um, just effortless.
It's because he obviously plays with his stick in his inside of his hand rather than over the top, and I always
Yeah.
my arm is a bit too weak to do that. But to get the precision that he does, I mean, obviously it's a very typically jazz style approach. But when you watch him playing those little grace notes off the hi hat and things, I think, wow, how cool is that? Because that's really hard to get those little flicks, but they sound great when they're in the right place. They do sound pretty smart, don't they?
They do, yeah. I think the traditional grip, um, it's a lot easier to get those little nuances in, I think, rather than playing your matched grip, because just the way the stick, I
Mm.
think, falls, at least in my experience of trying to do that
Mm.
kind of thing. Yeah, it definitely has its place.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just find it really hard to play like that.
Oh, and that, yeah, me too.
Yeah, and that, yeah, I just find it hard. Um, so obviously, Roger played a massive part in your early kind of musical journey.
Yeah,
How did it develop from there, Chris? What kind of stepping stones happened after that?
I think, like I said about discovering, everyone has their path of musical discovery. My uncle, obviously, learning of me getting into music, came round with a big box of cassettes, must have been 100 or more. And he was just like, okay, work your way through that. And it had
Nice.
everything from AC/DC's Back in Black, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin. So I was making my way through these cassettes. And obviously this was, being into that type of music, I was just like, wow, okay, this is amazing. So I would come home from school and play to music. That's
Mm.
what I did with my time. I spent every hour I had playing to these cassettes and CDs and just being obsessed with trying to copy what I heard,
Mm.
basically.
Yeah.
I was having lessons at school, but it was very fundamental. This is the eighth note beat. Let's do some bass drum variations.
Mm.
So I think learning, in particular, how's Roger Taylor doing that,
Mm.
making that sound? Oh, he's hitting this, and I would really focus in and copy what these drummers were doing.
Yeah.
I think the evolution of getting into different music, and once you get to Metallica, you're going, okay, well, he's playing really, really loud,
Mm.
so I'm going to start doing this, and then you get to Iron Maiden, and you go, well, this is really fast, so
Yeah.
then you start building your speed up, and
Mm.
yeah, just a lot of listening and copying and discovery, I think.
Yeah, and I think where you're saying about fundamental, I think that's absolutely bang on because, when I started learning to play, it was always, when I started drumming, it's like Appetite for Destruction, Hysteria, Dr. Feelgood, they were all the big albums,
Yeah.
so I was well into that, and obviously Van Halen and stuff. So I always, had my kit set in front of my stereo down in the shed, turned up to 11 because it had to be to get above the volume of the drums. But it was, I wanted to be in the band. That was the thing. It
Yeah.
was about
Hmm.
I want to play like Steven Adler. I want to play like Tommy Lee, or I want to be Alex Van Halen. I want to be that person for that 5 minutes or whatever, however long that song is. That's who I'm going to be. And I think that was how I approached the drums. And I think, as like you were saying about hearing different styles, and then like with Iron Maiden, I remember the first Iron Maiden album I bought was Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and it's partly because I love the song Clairvoyant. It was my first 7-inch single actually, and I just remember hearing it and thinking, God, what is he doing? How is he creating that sound? And then it wasn't until Nico released he did a video which is called Rhythm of the Beast, and they had it on like a VHS, and I got it from the drum store in my local town because I grew up in Cornwall, and I wore it out because I watched it so much because I wanted to see Nico's technique and how he got that really crisp, those little triplets on his ride cymbal, and he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, oh, that sounds so cool. And again, we were talking earlier about you can hear it sound of a drummer. Nico's a prime example, isn't he?
Yeah,
He has
definitely.
a signature tone. You know straight away who it is. Yeah, so I think those the roots of those bands are really important to anyone who's
Yeah.
starting out along that journey. And I mean, wow, you were super lucky being given that amount of music to jump
Yeah.
into as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very lucky. I mean, I started learning really just when the internet was coming to be a normal thing. Which, when I've done any teaching, the students don't really comprehend because they've always had it.
Yeah.
So they could always jump on YouTube. But obviously, when I started learning was around 97. By the time I was able to get drum lessons. So really, you only had your ears and whatever music you could get your hands on. Obviously,
Yeah.
any time before that would be the same for anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very lucky to have that quantity of music just sort of given to me, and I could just make my way through it.
Yeah, and it's like a treasure trove, really, when you think about,
Yeah.
because it's walking on shoulders of giants, really, with all the bands we've been talking about, and I think it was Shutty brought this up when I was talking to him about, you invested in music before the internet because that was the only way you were accessible to it. So, you had to give up your hard-earned dollar for whatever new stuff was around because that was the only way you could get it. Whereas, like you
Yeah.
said, new people who are learning now can go onto Spotify or they can go onto Apple Music, they can go onto YouTube, and they can find it. It's not They can search it out really easily.
Yeah.
Whereas, like yourself and myself, we didn't have that luxury. It was what you had access to at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's basically on a plate for the kids these days, isn't it?
Mm.
Which again is great. Like, I wish that was available when I was learning, um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
but I think the discovery process is different now because it's so easy just to go, nah, skip, no, skip. I think especially having a physical copy of something, you really appreciated what you had
Yeah, yeah.
because, like you say, you did spend your money on it. And I used to love getting a new CD, going home, looking through the book,
Yeah,
which I know is a big thing with vinyl. And I've recently started really going and collecting vinyl
cool.
for the fact that you get the big open spread and the art that's involved in it, and it's a whole like process
I can,
listening to a
I,
record.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And also, listening to an album from beginning to end, or go right. Okay,
Mm.
I'm listening to side A. This is the opening track. So let's take Seventh Son because we were talking about that just a minute ago.
Yeah,
Moonchild, first track, and you've got that keyboardy part as it comes in, and then it kicks off. And then as that progresses through, and then when you flick over onto side B, and obviously it's ending with Only the Good Die Young, but you've got Seventh Son of a Seventh Son on that side as well, which is like 9 minutes of epicness on that as
yeah,
well. And that is such a tune. I mean, I love that song. It's brilliant. But there's a story being told through the whole thing. Whereas now, it's quite easy to get your phone and go, oh yeah, nah, like you said, skip and shuffle, and everything's on shuffle. And I don't think
yeah,
that you're so right with the physicality of something because that's the story within it as well. It's more
yeah.
than just a digital file.
It's listening how it's intended to be heard. I
Yes.
think that if you're really wanting to get into the mindset of the band, then it's really important just to listen
Mm.
to it. Um, and that's what's great about vinyl, is because obviously it's actually quite hard to skip a vinyl, isn't it? Like, you can
Yes.
do it, you can see where the tracks start and finish, but just let it play. That's
Yeah.
how it's meant to be heard.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
And I
and you
love
should.
that.
Yeah, because that's the beauty of it. There is something quite organic about that. I think.
Yeah.
Um, and when you hear it, it's a different type of sound as well. There's something I can't explain it, but there's something else, like another energy that surrounds it. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually really picky with vinyls, particularly because I only want vinyls that were released only on vinyl. So like, I have like anything after what, 84, 85, I'm not actually that interested in, just
Oh,
because that's
that's
when
fair enough.
CD came in and it was made for CD. So yeah, anything up to that point, I'll look for a vinyl.
Yeah, but no, that's cool. But those when we were talking about drum sound, and you think
Yeah,
let's take Back in Black as an example, and obviously Mutt Lang was responsible for the production of that, and the process he put Phil Rudd through with tracking those drums. But when you hear it played on vinyl, when you hear even just the beginning to Hell's Bells, it's quite haunting actually. That
yeah,
isn't it? There's something about it. It's like, wow, this thing's a living, breathing thing. This entity that I want to be a part of.
yeah, yeah. It's, I think being a musician, I kind of get that whole like journey. Um, but yeah, like I totally agree. Like, yeah, it's a weird feeling to be like that emotionally moved by music, I guess, isn't it? Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, no, I think
Um,
so. Yeah, I think so. It's like the Force. I think we're at one with it. And
yeah,
I feel a little bit like that when I play my kit. If I'm playing with the right musicians and I'm playing, and everything is absolutely in the pocket where it needs to
you get
be.
the feeling. Yeah,
There is
get the
nothing.
shivers.
You know exactly what I mean because you felt
I
it,
do. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
and you can't. There's no explanation for what that is, and the only way I can describe it. And I talk to students about this and other people. You know, I think it's the Force. It is not. I'm trying to get all Star Wars, but do you know what I
It's like a
mean?
sense of euphoria, isn't it?
Mm.
Like you can't really explain it, but that's the reason we do it.
Yes,
It's
mate.
for that.
Yes.
Um, I feel very fortunate to be able to earn my money from doing it, but
Mm.
it's not about that. It's about the feeling because no one ever, well, I'm sure they do, but no one that I know has ever started to play an instrument just for money.
No.
It's always for the love of music,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
initially, anyway. So yeah,
And I think
yeah.
you know, obviously, if anything comes from it and you are able to do it as a job, then
Mm,
great. But never try and lose sight of what you started with. I always think that, you know, because that
100%. Yeah,
you have to stay grounded, you know, as best as you possibly can, irrespective
yeah,
of what happens or who you meet along the way or who influences you or impacts on the direction that you're going in. You got to remain true to yourself. I think that's what it's about.
yeah. And it's nice to see musicians that obviously have been majorly successful that are still grounded
Mm.
and haven't lost sight of why they started. Um, so yeah, it's I'm forever grateful that I'm able to earn money from it. But yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely a privilege. So in your time behind the kit, obviously you've played with quite a few um, influential people and big named people, without a doubt. You know, what was that? What when that first thing happened for you? What did that feel like? Did it feel a bit strange? As in, I can't quite believe this is happening to me, and I'm doing this now, or and quite humbling. Do you know what I mean? Or was it because I'm just kind of interested to know, really.
um, I think when you're in the moment, you don't really, you just have to deal with it there and then it's always the reflection process
Mm.
that you kind of go, oh, that was really cool. And I think that's what keeps you grounded when you do go, oh my god, that's amazing. um like the first time you get to spend time with someone that you look up to, or even if
Yeah.
it's for like 2 minutes. It's always the reflection process of going, oh, I'm really lucky to be able to do that.
Mm.
um and yeah, so when you're in the moment, I think you just have to, you don't really think about it because it's usually over so quickly,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least in my experience.
No, and I understand that completely. I get that. You know, I do get that because you know when we think back to the Cozy Powell Memorial, which is obviously where I first met you,
Yeah.
and I can't quite believe that's nearly 6 years ago. That feels a bit mental,
I know.
and my
Yeah.
brain explodes when I think like that. You know, and I got that chance to do that really spontaneous drum duet with Bob Richards, and I remember walking away from that, going back to my car, thinking I can't quite believe that has just happened, and the people that were in that room at the time listening to that, it hadn't really hit me until I remember, you know, went back, like you said, about reflecting on that 2.5 minutes and thinking, okay, there, you know, I'm not going to go into the names because I don't want to do that, but you know, there were so many people from the music business that were in there who were in the presence of me playing, and it must have felt like that for you when you did that tribute to Cozy, which you were asked to do, which
Yeah.
mate, it was bloody amazing. By the way, I was
Oh,
blown
thank you
away
very
by
much.
that. I thought you absolutely bossed it. It was just amazing. Um, but what a thing to be asked to do. How did that actually come about for you, fella? What was was there a did someone go, oh Chris, we fancy, are you up for doing this? Was there, or was it a bit more complicated than that?
All credit actually goes to my wife for
Fair
that.
play to your wife.
Yeah. Um, her uncle was actually good friends with Cozy, lived in the
Okay.
same town, and I didn't know this when I met her. It's only when it comes up in conversation, or I was watching something, and
Mm.
she, and her uncle, I think, said to her, "Oh, Chris is a drummer. See if he knows who Cozy Powell is." I was just like, "Yeah, I've been watching Cozy Powell on a VHS since I was like 7. So of course I know who Cozy Powell is." And it turned out that he was good friends with him. And he ended up posting a link on Facebook to the initial petition to get the blue plaque
Mm.
up in Cirencester.
Yeah.
And all I wanted to do was attend the blue
Yeah.
plaque
Yeah.
unveiling. And it was my wife who said to me, "No, you need to do more than that. You should," because she knew that I knew how to play Cozy Powell stuff, and in
Yeah.
particular the drum solo from the famous Brian May band release, live band
Absolutely.
release.
Absolutely.
Um, and she's like, "Why don't you just email and see if you can play?" I
Mm.
was just like, "That is the most ridiculous thing you could ever have suggested." Um, but I did. I can't remember exactly who I emailed, but the mayor of Cirencester came back to me and was just like, "Absolutely, yes, we'd love that. It's a celebration. We'd love music and performances. So yes, please come and do it."
Mm.
And I didn't realize until the day that it would be at that VIP. I was
Yeah.
just like, I wonder if I'll be out in the street or something. I hadn't really thought about it
Yeah.
until I got there, and they were like, "Yeah, so you can just put your kit next to Cozy's kit." I was
Yeah.
just
Right
like,
up there next to that Stargazer kit.
"Yeah," I was like, "Okay," and then it really started to sink in exactly what I was just about to do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so all credit to my wife for pushing me into it.
It's funny, isn't it? Because so Mark Harris, obviously you mentioned, who was the mayor of Siren at the time. So
Yeah.
I was heavily involved with the Phoenix Festival, which is a big thing
Mm.
in Siren, obviously, which you have played at with Octopus. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, I was heavily involved with the committee, and that was the reason why I got invited to go, because part of the local music scene and everything that myself and my colleague were doing, we were a big part of all that. So for me, like you said, just actually attending and being asked to go was amazing. To be, 6 feet away from Brian May talking about it was like, wow, okay. And then to see Tony Iommi and Susie Quattro and Carl Palmer and Neil Murray and all these guys, it's like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, this is a really big deal. It was quite an honor just to be asked, just to be at the event, let alone anything
Yeah.
else, which
Yeah.
I thought was just incredible. Yeah, it was just what an amazing afternoon. And then
Yeah.
when I came up to you afterwards and you said, I said, oh mate, I set my kit up like that at home, and you went, yeah, I'll go and have a go. And I was like, do you think I should? and that But that was just incredible, because then the whole thing with Bob Richards wouldn't have happened. So where
Yeah.
we were talking about those little things, how things move on from that, just amazing. How those one door opens after one's closed, you know. Um, and I suppose I watched your exposure explode after that, really. Um,
Yeah.
and what was that like for you?
Um, that event. in particular was a turning point in my head, particularly because I was working doing various sessions and playing with basically whoever I could.
Mm.
But I hadn't really had a direction. I thought I had to be a bit of a chameleon and try and play, a bit of pop, a bit of rock, and try and really. But it was that event that made me go, no, this is what you should be doing. This is what you grew up with.
Mm.
Like, you just need to stick to that thing that you've always wanted to be.
Yeah.
I'd spent 4 or 5 years touring in a metal band before I started doing sessions full time.
Right.
And then I came out of that, and yeah, I guess I was trying to fit in where I could, but it was that day that really focused me. And yeah, that's the path I ended up taking and ended up here.
which is
So,
which is really exciting. And so what happened? So I know there was talk of you doing some work with Brian. Did that ever come to any fruition, or was that?
No, it hasn't yet. We've been in touch, but there's been nothing yet that's happened. Queen had a big resurgence of popularity, especially when the Bohemian Rhapsody movie came out. He's not yet done anything in a solo sense that's needed that call, I guess. So, but he knows. He's seen some of my recent videos, and he emailed me, so he knows where I am if
How
it
cool.
ever comes to light.
But that's just so cool, isn't it? Yeah, Brian May knows where I am.
I've made my feelings very well known to him, how I would feel about the Brian May band touring again if it were to happen, because he's obviously re-releasing all the albums at the moment. So,
yeah, which is incredible. I was lucky enough to see the Brian May band with Cozy at Plymouth Pavilions back. It was like early '90s, and Cozy did that drum solo that you were talking about, and my God, that was just incredible. I at the time, I don't think I really appreciated how monumental that was for me, because I knew who Cozy was, but it wasn't necessarily like seeing Alex Van Halen or or Tommy Lee for me at the time. But actually now, I was very privileged to have been there and appreciate that for the time. So after the memorial thing, what kind of happened? What were the next steps? Because obviously there must have been a few doors and a few phone calls, and what was the next big thing that kind of happened? If you can remember.
I think I just really focused on myself and my brand. I suppose it's a brand, isn't it? On the internet and stuff these days. And I think I would just really concentrated on like I say, focusing where I wanted to go as a musician and what work I wanted to do. I think it wasn't long after that I started working with a band from Canada that were coming over. So I was basically hired over here, and they were a rock band, and hired their backline musicians.
Right.
And then I think from there, obviously you meet other musicians, and then you get booked to do other things. So I just started like consistently working.
Yeah.
From that point. So I can't think there was anything that it just kind of exploded, because it was still hard work.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would have been great to get a call from someone and just end up on a massive tour, but it didn't happen like that. So basically grafted and sort of just went from there, and worked with a Canadian band called Cherry Suede. Ended up doing a couple tours with those, some recording sessions. But in this time, I was really trying to use the internet as a tool
Mm.
not only the social media side but also remote recording,
Yeah.
which I still do now.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, the technology that you can record an album for someone that's 10,000 miles away.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time getting that up together and making that a possibility
Cool.
as well. Um, which is where like my online content came from as well, because I was able then to set up and do it.
And why not? And I think that's the thing, because once you've got that sound and you know that it sounds good recorded, then
Yeah,
you're set then, aren't you? And I think drums are quite tricky to record and get right. It's not like plugging in a guitar and tweaking it here and there, because there's so many other things that can affect the sound of drums, because the
yeah,
atmosphere in the room, air pressure, there's not just one thing. And yeah, I mean, I find that hard, in my space that I've got here that you can see. So I mean, I got around that by triggering all of my drums so they just run straight into a module and then
yeah,
stereo into my computer, because then I could control how it was going to sound every time. But I know that's not everyone's bag. It's not.
sure, yeah,
Not everyone wants to do that. So it's how we go about doing that to make that work. So while we're kind of talking about kit and stuff like that, so do you have your kit kind of permanently set up in a space where you can just go in, play, click record if you need to? Is it that straightforward?
yeah. So I've got my own space, and it's all set up, mic'd up, ready to go. And yeah, so really, if someone wanted a drum track,
Hmm.
they could have it within 24 hours if I was free to do it.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's ready to go. I've got a second kit that I'll take to any gigs, if the kit needs to stay where it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the good kit's in the space, which I'll only take out on nice gigs.
When you want to de-rig it and load out because it's a
Exactly.
yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. Have you got is there a certain setup preference? Because I quite like two up, two down. Um, but
It depends on the project, actually.
okay,
I like two floor toms,
yeah,
whatever I'm doing, but I will swap between a two up, two down, to a one up, two down.
okay,
If you don't need that second rack tom,
yeah.
I'll just use the one.
But it's
So I do
sometimes
swap.
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes it's nice to have that ride cymbal right in, sat over the bass drum to really dig in if you need to, and if you want to drive it hard.
Yeah, I do think you get influenced by what kit you've got in front of you as well. So
Mm,
if I had something that needed particularly, like, let's say, Bonham style drums,
yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily be in that mindset if I had two rack toms, if
Mm,
that makes
yes.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so yeah, I do kind of set up for what I think will be appropriate for that particular project.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting asking that, because I mean everyone has their own idea of what they think is acceptable or not, or
yeah,
and I think this is where drums are so different from playing a guitar or playing a bass or piano, whatever, because there are so many different combinations that you can have. It's all not endless, but the possibilities are countless, I suppose. Let's put it that way.
yeah. There's so much you can do with one drum kit,
Mm,
even if it's changing the heads, using even different sized sticks make a difference in the sound. Obviously, because the bigger the stick, the bigger the sound.
yeah, of course.
Cymbals, the possibilities there are huge as well.
Mm, yeah.
So yeah, I think we're really lucky that we can do so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a preference with symbols? Is there a not that I'm want to necessarily get you to name brands or anything like that, but is there a certain sound that you look for and certain sizes that you like that you prefer to play?
Yeah, at the moment it's the bigger the better in
That's
sizes.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
Um, I've been using Peisty since 2016. Um, and that was a discovery in itself because obviously, like when you go and look at all these drummers that you're influenced by,
Mm,
and you realize how many people use them and they've got that particular sound. But it wasn't until I actually got my hands on them that I realized exactly why they were using them. So,
yeah, fair
um,
enough.
yeah, so big cymbals, I'm using like my smallest crash is an 18
Okay,
inch, going up to 20, so 18, 19, 20. Big rides, 22-inch rides, 20-inch chinas,
nice.
15-inch hi-hats. Yeah.
Nice. So
So,
a really big sound because it's interesting because
yeah.
I've got there's a podcast coming out later this week with um a drummer called Frederick Jansen who plays with Angel Witch, and he was saying, you know, for him bigger the better because that's what he wants. He wants that big volume, longer lasting sound.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas, you know, it's interesting when you hear, compared to when I was talking to Darby, who liked some smaller cymbals to get those slightly more intricate sounds. But then when if you're like he's he's very jazz, acid jazz style drumming, then
Yeah.
you can understand why he would want that, if you like.
Absolutely. Yeah, they definitely all have their place. I mean, I've got splashes and,
Mm,
little effect symbols that do get on the kit now and again. But I was using a brand previous to Peisty, and they, from when I started using them to leaving, because it was through an endorsement,
yeah.
um, they really wanted to go in the direction of dark, trashy symbols,
Mm,
and they were marketing a certain way that really wasn't going to suit what I was after.
fair enough.
And everything I was going, well, I really want a symbol to sound like that, and I really want a symbol to sound like that. Do you do anything like? No, we don't make that anymore. So the obvious choice was because everything I was like asking for
Mm,
sounded like a 2002.
fair
So,
enough. I understand that. They have
so
a
yeah,
place.
they do. Yeah. So I was just like, no, I want my cymbals to be, you know, loud, upfront, cut over guitars. Um, I didn't want to be marketed like some drummers that, are quick and out the way, because I guess
I
it's not
understand.
rock and roll, is it?
Well, no, but that's it though, isn't it? And I think when you're after a certain sound, I think you're absolutely right. Because I was talking to Mel Stewart from British Drum Company about a month ago, and we were just talking about their drums and everything that the process they've gone through, and we were talking about some of their artists and that kind of development that they've gone in, you know, and they were saying about the quality that goes into their drums, and you think there's certain things which definitely suit certain people, and I think whereas others wouldn't necessarily suit certain people. You know, I think
Yeah,
do you know, and I think this is it, because you know, for anyone who is fairly new to the drumming world, it's like, well, why are there so many different choices? Why are there so many different brands? And why do they not all sound the same? You know, there's so many questions that I guess I'm sure you've been asked this in the past. You
yeah,
know, it's like, well, what kit should I have? And you go, well, I've got this kit because, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the kit you should have because actually this might suit you better. You
yeah,
know, and
yeah.
it's
I why do you have so many symbols? Well, they all sound
I
different.
get
Why,
asked that a
why do
lot.
they all sound different? Yeah, but then that's part of the learning process, isn't it? And
Yes.
um, I've been asked, um, when a kit with three toms. So why do you have three of those? Well, they all sound different. Well, how do they sound different?
Yeah.
Well, they're all different sizes, and
And the
then you have to,
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, like I say, it's the learning process. So
absolutely.
I
And
was
it's
I was that person once, and there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No,
So
I completely agree. I completely agree with you. I think all questions are relevant, aren't they? With
it
when
can
it
be
comes.
completely, really overwhelming. You walk into your local drum shop and see a wall of cymbals, and then go, um, okay, where do I start?
Mm,
You know,
absolutely.
um, so that's yeah. I mean, anyone that can get a teacher or someone to just go through that stuff.
Yeah, because I think that's important because that setup is important. If you want to get it right, or if you've got anyone who's got aspirations to, um, whether they, if they want to be in a band, and again, I mean, it's when they ask you and say, "Oh, what should I have if I'm going to play in a band?" Well, firstly, it depends on what style you're going to play, because if you're going to play in an Arctic Monkeys tribute, you're going to want something which is trashy and fairly full on to hold it all together. Whereas if you're going to go and play in a funk band, you're going to need something light and snappy.
Hmm.
And then they go, well, why is that? And it's like, well, listen to the difference in the tone of everything you're going to be playing, and it just goes from there. But
Yeah,
you are absolutely bang on with what you're saying.
yeah. I've done a fair bit of teaching, and I always found it important to not just focus on drums. I did quite a lot of listening to music. Like, go home and listen to 3 songs and choose
Yeah,
your favorite and tell me why. What
yeah.
do you hear in this song? Um, and yeah, the drums is an instrument that it gets played with other instruments. So yeah, I
I'm
found it
glad. I'm
important
glad.
to
I'm glad you say that because it's not just hit.
yeah. No, I have had a lot of students come in and kind of go, is it? And I'm like, yeah, the idea is to be playing to music or with other people. And it's crazy how a lot of people don't think of that before they come to the lessons. And
Yeah, and
you know,
I couldn't
but yeah, I
agree.
found it really important to teach
Yeah, I
musicality and listening skills as well.
musicality is a massive part of it all. I think I think any good drummer uses their ears. I mean, that's something I've always done. I'm self-taught. I've never had any lessons from anyone. Um, and I don't get me wrong. Probably a masterclass from a few people would be amazing at some point. But it was listening to the fundamentals that allowed me to pick that up. I wasn't lucky enough to have lessons at school because there wasn't a drum teacher at my school. It was, like I said to you earlier, it was playing along to music that got me going and working it out for myself.
Yeah,
And I think if you have that and you can hear it and you listen and you can feel that pulse and recognize that backbeat and you can lock into that, even if it's in its simplest form of, in a quarter note groove, just kick, snare, that, Phil Rudd's great for that. Roger Taylor's great for that because it's solid and it's reliable and it anchors everything together. But I think that's the start, and then you can kind of build from that. And I that's where I try to get my students to start from, or anyone who asks me anything. It's
yeah,
like, well, yeah, that's where you need to start there.
yeah, absolutely. I was always I wanted to get the students playing to music in some way as quickly as
Yes.
possible. If I could do it within 3 lessons and get them playing to "We Will Rock You," then that's what my aim was. Um, but I made sure that I went along their path.
Mm.
If I had a young girl come in and say, I want to play to Katy Perry, then that's what we'd do.
And actually, there's some of Katy Perry's songs genuinely have got some fantastic grooves in them to
Oh yeah,
hook
absolutely.
to hook into. I mean, I use the song "Dark Horse" a lot with some of my girl drummers because they can really feel the pulse in the background. So it's quite
Yeah,
obvious what they're listening out for. And yeah, it's absolutely right. And I think that it's also not being arrogant in a way that doesn't go, oh no, we can't listen to that, or we can't listen to that. You've got to be open to everything. I think that's really important as well because everyone's different to what
yeah,
they're influenced by. Because your journey's different to my journey, different to somebody else's journey. We all have what we bring to the table in our own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just because I was teaching them doesn't mean they have to be learning Iron Maiden tracks. But
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely, yeah, and it's being comfortable enough to approach it like that as well. I think because
yeah,
you have to, because like we said, everyone's journey is different. Um, so while we're talking about journey, your journey, which is really where we are, um, now, correct me if I'm wrong? Did you not do some stuff with guys from Rainbow? Is that right, or have I completely off?
guys from Rainbow.
Did you do anything with that, or is that
No.
something I got told that you were doing?
Um, I've I've done something with Ronnie Romero before, who is the current singer with Rainbow.
I think that's
Um,
where it might have been.
yeah, that was so we did a one-off show together back in 2018. And that was the first time I met him, was in the rehearsal. But we've became friends and kept in touch since then.
Awesome.
So yeah, I saw him last week actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's singing for Michael Schenker at the moment. So
Now
um,
that's a name,
yeah,
isn't it? Wow.
it is. Yeah, so he was over in the UK, so we met up and caught up, and yeah, hopefully we can work together. We did a couple things over lockdown actually as
Cool.
well, the sort of online collaborations.
Brilliant.
Um, we did. He was on the Driven by You track that
Okay.
ended up being Brian May's Get Well card, if you will,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
all
yeah,
of his
yeah,
friends,
yeah.
which was never meant to be like that. Actually, it just ended up getting all these people on it.
That's
Um,
cool though, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And then we did a Queen track for Brian May's Animal Charity
Oh, okay.
that Ronnie was also on. We did Save Me for
Oh,
this
nice.
Brian May Save Me Trust. So yeah, we've done a couple of things, but not rainbow related.
Not rainbow related. Yeah,
No.
I can't remember who told me that. It was some. I think it was before you did that. You were part of the Phoenix Festival when you played with Octopus, and I think someone had
Oh,
told me.
okay.
I think that's when someone must have told me, because that would have been about the same sort of time. So it must have been what you were doing with Ronnie. That must have been what I was told. Um, I think, because it would have been 2018 when I saw you playing.
Right. Yeah. 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 Maybe I was trying to get him on that gig. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember. I just think I was told something about it by the guys that were organising it. Yeah. Am I right in thinking that the guitarist from Inglorious was part of that with you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. My friend Drew. He was he maybe he'd just left Inglorious at that point, but
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. He came and we did a full band Cozy Power tribute.
that's right. That's what I
Um,
remember. That's what I remember.
chose some tracks. It came off the back of the initial Siren Sister
Mm,
plaque unveiling. Um, and yeah, it was just choosing some tracks that Cozy played on. So we did some Sabbath, some Rainbow, White Snake,
yeah,
Brian
that's right.
May. Um, yeah, the Phoenix Festival. Yeah, that was really really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a hell of a show. We had just finished doing the last few bands on our Let's Play stage, which is for like amateurs to come and showcase their stuff. And I remember we just finished, and you guys you were just starting your set, and they were waiting for us to finish before you all kicked off, and they were like, we've been told over the comms, you need to finish. You need to finish. Chris Allen's band needs to go on. Are you done? Are you done? It's like, yeah, we're nearly done. We're nearly done. There's this guy crooning away on a tune he'd made, whatever. But no, it's amazing. That was something else. I was blown away by how good that sounded. It was
Oh, thank
epic.
you.
It was epic, and it looked visually stunning from the back of the field. It was brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to do more of that.
Mm,
That would be great. Obviously, doing it in Cirencester, obviously where Cozy is
mm,
from,
yeah,
on the Cozy Powell stage as
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to do that. Yeah, yeah,
It was very cool. It was very cool. I was. yeah, I was like, yeah, because I was standing with one of the guys that I work with, and I said, I know the drummer, and they went, really? I was like, yeah. You know, they have one of those moments like, how do you know? How do you know him? It's like, well, I'll go into that story if we go and get a pint. It was one of those, you know, it just kind of, you know what it's like. That I met that night. I met John Coughlin from Status Quo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he was there. Because he doesn't live that very far from Siren, and he'd been asked there by one of the committee members, I think, because they're quite good friends. And yeah, and I ended up chatting to him for ages about Quo, and it was just really cool talking to him about the early days of the Frantic Four and everything. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
again, it was
Oh,
one of those.
amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was one of those moments. So I can't quite believe I'm sat here on a hay bale, having a drink, and I'm talking to you about that. You know, it's just, yeah, out of body experience.
Uh,
It's
well, it's
awesome.
these little moments that, again, you reflect on and,
Yeah, yeah.
be grateful for.
I think so. So, where are you currently, Chris? With because obviously now things are starting to open up and live shows are kicking off again. Is there
Yeah.
where are you presently, fella?
Um, right. So I've
If you're
been
allowed,
doing little, yeah,
if
little
you're allowed
gigs
to, if
here and
you,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. And what am I? Yeah. No, I've got nothing that's a secret.
Oh, okay,
Um, I have got some stuff that I am hoping comes to light next year.
awesome.
Um, there is. I've got a bunch of rescheduled dates. I was supposed to do a tour in 2020 with a band called Karnataka,
Mhm.
um, who are well known on the prog scene. So that's been rescheduled. I think this is the third rescheduled dates now. Obviously, we're supposed to
Okay.
do it in 2021. A couple of rescheduled dates didn't happen then. So yeah, 2022. I think we've got 12 to 14 shows starting in March.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so that would be really good to be out in these venues and
Yeah.
doing it properly. I've been doing, anything I can at the moment, pub stuff. I did some Oktoberfest gigs, which were actually really big.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just like covers things, just to be back out. It's good to be back out playing. But I'm really looking forward to the Karnataka stuff. Just about to track drums for their forthcoming album, actually.
Awesome. That'd be cool.
As well. So yeah, keeping busy in the studio, busy as I can,
Good.
working
Good.
for people. Yeah, all over. Just
Nice.
finished a track for a guy in New Zealand. So
Amazing.
yeah, trying to keep busy.
Sounds like you are, without doubt. You know,
Yeah,
def.
I can't wait until we can, get on the road properly and
Yeah.
hopefully some of the things that I'm talking about will be able to happen. And
Yeah, amazing.
yeah,
You got
that'd
to
be great.
keep me in the loop, please.
Oh, I will. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'll
Yeah.
have to come. I'll have to come and catch you guys at a show or something. I'd really like that. That'd be good.
Yeah, yeah. You're more than welcome to
It'd be
come out.
amazing.
Yeah,
It'd be amazing to come and do that because I think one of the things I want to try and do off of the back of doing these interviews and everything is actually to go out and do some like on-site broadcasts, and
yeah,
that
it'd be
sort of thing. So I
brilliant. Yeah,
think it'd be really cool to do that. I've been asked to go to a few now. So I've got my ticket for download next year, and partly because I really want to see Kiss again, and I really want to see
mm,
Maiden. I really want to see Maiden again, because I mean this in all respect to the guys, but then they aren't going to be able to physically be able to carry on doing it for much longer, not to the standard they're doing it, and so it could be the last chance I get. But there's a lot of guys that I've talked to who are playing. So like Phil
yeah,
Martini from Wayward Sons is playing with obviously Wayward Sons are playing, and there's a few others that are playing as well, and it'd be just great to go and see them there and have a chat and do that kind of outside broadcast thing. I think that'd be wicked to do that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it'd
yeah.
be so cool
I'll
to do
check the
that.
dates and I'll let you know where we are.
Yeah,
And
that'd be really cool.
yeah,
I
that'd
think
be really
it'd
good.
be great. It'd be really good to do that. It'd be really, really good to do that. Yeah. So, any aspiration? I'm gonna last kind of as we round things off. Are there any aspirations for things that you would love the opportunity to be able to do? Let's put it that way.
Reform the Brian May band.
Yay! Absolutely. with Chris Allen on drums.
Yeah, more like I've actually said to Brian, just to keep to Cozy's name there, as you know, I think more than anything it would be because I think he's possibly one of the most underrated rock drummers. Everyone knows Nico McBrain and John Bonham and Roger Taylor, but I think a lot of people don't know Cozy Powell.
Yeah.
And I've kind of made it my life's work to keep his spirit alive.
They must know.
Yeah, because I think that he's played on so much stuff as well that people don't realize it's him necessarily.
Yeah.
Aspirations that might actually happen. I just want to keep working and just keep doing it.
Awesome.
For as long as I possibly can.
Fair enough. And I think that's nothing. That sounds good to me. So, interesting Cozy fact for you. Did you know that he played drums on some of Cinderella's Long Cold Winter album? Not Fred Coury.
I did know that. Yeah.
Oh, not many people do know that.
Yeah. I've listened to it's all. You can find some of it on YouTube. I think
you can.
And you can definitely tell it's him playing it as well.
Because it's a different feel, isn't it?
Cozy Powell fun fact. Did you know that it is strongly rumoured that it is Cozy Powell playing on the released version of Superstition?
Oh, no, I didn't know that. But that would make sense when you hear.
Yeah, it came from, I believe, the drummer of Cheap Trick was told this by Cozy, but it was a very much a don't tell anyone because no one will believe me and they'll think I'm insane.
Fair enough.
But when Cozy passed, I believe he said it to somebody, a reliable source. And
brilliant.
Apparently it was when they were over doing, I think Cozy was over with Jeff Beck doing the Motown record.
Yeah.
And they had a jam and Cozy heard it on the radio and went, blimey, that's my drum track.
Awesome. How cool is that?
Yeah, very cool. I think you can hear it.
You're right. You can hear it. You can hear it. I mean, Bob Richards was saying when I had a chat to him, he actually tunes his kit to a live bootleg Rainbow album.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah. It's amazing to think that he did that. Tuned it to the same, so you got that sound. That's dedication. That's dedication, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a drums only version of Superstition on YouTube, and if you listen to it and then you listen to some of the early Jeff Beck recordings that Cozy was on, you kind of go, you know what, that might be true, but I don't know if it'll ever be proved or not.
Wow, this is the thing, isn't it? Maybe it's going to be one of those things that's it's a conspiracy theory, that no one's ever really going to know the truth, but there's a couple.
It definitely made playing that track at weddings more bearable for me. For a few years.
It's one of those ones that you sell your soul, isn't it? Because it's one of those tracks that you pimp yourself out on. A bit like there are so many tracks that are like that. If you're in a covers band at a wedding and you're doing, like you said, Superstition or Uptown Funk is one of those songs, isn't it? You got to go, yeah, okay, I've got to play this because we're in a wedding tribute covers band, so we've got to play the stuff that people want to dance to. But yeah, you're right. You're right. It's one of those. It's about making it bearable, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Mate, it's been amazing this afternoon. I've had a fantastic time chatting to you about everything. It's been really good.
It's been fun. Thank you for asking me to come on.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. Really, really is. Let's look forward to the future. Look forward. Hopefully the tour all goes off. The album recording goes well. And all those other things that you're hoping happen. And we will most definitely stay in touch, and
for sure. It'd be great to do a part 2. 100%.
I would be absolutely up for that. I mean, maybe at some point we could do a part 2, but do it perhaps from your studio, and then we could look at your setup and do something like that. Have a different angle on it, good. Perhaps. That sounds like a plan. Mate, amazing. Look, take care, stay safe, all of those things,
you too,
fella, and I will catch up with you very, very soon.
Thanks very much. See you
That's
soon.
right. See you soon, buddy.